The letter was pink, not a subtle salmon or a respectable rose. This was passion pink, a shade so bright it vibrated, a color that screamed bubblegum-flavored lawsuit. It was, of course, from the Homeowners Association. I stood in my entryway, staring at the envelope. In our neighborhood of meticulously curated beige, taupe, and greige, this envelope was an act of aggression. It was a neon sign pointing to my house, and the sign said, "This one. Get him." My name is Rick, and I work from home as a data analyst, which is a fancy way of saying I stare at spreadsheets until my eyes bleed. My house is my sanctuary, or at least it was, until the great Texas drought of this year decided to single out my front lawn for total annihilation. I slit the envelope open. The letter inside was on thick, cream-colored cardstock. Dear Mr. Richard Miller, this letter serves as a formal and final notice regarding your property's non-compliance with the Westwind Estates Community Guidelines. Violation. Bylaw. 1.2. All homeowner-facing lawn areas must be maintained in a living, verdant turf environment. Lawns must be regularly watered, mowed, and kept free of weeds and/or discoloration. A visual inspection on this date has confirmed that your lawn is currently comprised of what can only be described as aesthetically offensive biomass. The current state of the turf presents a significant negative impact on community property values. Aesthetically offensive biomass, I muttered. That was a new one. I looked out my front window. My lawn wasn't just dormant. It was gone. It was a crisp, beige, 50 by 30-foot rectangle of crunchy straw. It looked like a shredded wheat a giant had dropped and forgotten. I picked up my phone and dialed Dave. He answered on the second ring. "What's up, man?" "I've just been cited," I said, walking to the kitchen for a coffee. "The HOA has declared my lawn aesthetically offensive biomass." A long pause, followed by a wheezing sound that turned into a full-blown cackle. "Biomass? Like, we've detected alien biomass on the hull, Captain?" "Exactly. I'm pretty sure that's what they call zombies in movies. Karen's given me 14 days. "Dude," Dave said, his laughter subsiding. "I've seen it. Your lawn looks like the scalp of a mummy. It's awful. Just water it." "Water it?" I scoffed, pouring the hot water over the coffee grounds. "Dave, I live in Central Texas. We're in Stage 4 water restrictions. I'm only allowed to water on the third Tuesday of a month with an R in it, and only if I'm standing on one foot and whistling the national anthem. Watering this thing to life would mean filing for bankruptcy. Besides, it's beyond water. This grass needs a priest. It needs last rites. So what are you going to do? Resod? That's thousands of dollars for new grass that will just die again. I'm not doing it. I don't know, I'll find a solution. Just don't make it worse, Rick. You know what? Karen's like." I hung up and sipped my coffee, glaring at the beige menace outside. Dave was right. Karen was like something. A beige-wearing, clipboard-wielding predator. As if summoned by the very thought, she appeared. I was on my front porch, still holding the offending pink letter, when she did her mid-morning security patrol. Karen was our HOA president, a woman who had never, in the 5 years I'd lived there, worn a color that wasn't some shade of tan. She wore a high ponytail, wrap-around sunglasses, and a sun visor so large it could have provided shade for a small family picnic. She power-walked, clipboard in hand, a beige shark gliding through a sea of identical, perfect lawns. She stopped at the edge of my property line, as if crossing it might infect her with non-compliance. "Richard," her voice was as crisp as my dead grass. "Karen." I gave her a 2-finger salute. "Love the visor. I'm pretty sure you could block a solar flare with that thing." She did not smile. I don't think the muscles in her face knew how. "You received the notice?" "Oh yeah, the pink one. Hard to miss." I held it up. "Loved the color choice. Very vibrant. Really pops against the beige. You have 14 totem 14th days to resod, Richard." She made a little check mark on her clipboard. The click of her pen echoed in the quiet street. "We can't have that bringing down property values." "Karen, it's just grass. It's the circle of life. Dust to dust, you know?" "The circle of life," she said, her voice flat, "is not a valid landscaping model under HOA guidelines. 14 days. Or the fines begin. $200 compounding daily. Good morning." She didn't wait for a reply. She just spun on her designer sneakers and power walked away, her clipboard held firmly against her chest. I watched her go, a tiny beige tyrant ruling her tiny beige kingdom. "Compounding daily," I grumbled, walking back inside. This wasn't a neighborhood. It was a debtor's prison with better landscaping. I sat at my computer, frustrated. I hated yard work. I hated the HOA. I just wanted this problem to go away with the least amount of effort and money possible. I Googled easiest lawn solution. The results were predictable. Resodding, hydroseeding. And then I saw it. High realism artificial turf. It was perfect. It was green. It was always green. It required no water, no mowing, no nothing. It was the ultimate maintenance-free middle finger to the Texas climate. This was the sensible adult solution. I clicked the link. The pictures looked great. I immediately drafted an email to the HOA board, which was just Karen and 2 guys named Todd who were terrified of her. Subject: Lawn Compliance. Bylaw 4.1.2. To the board. In response to the notice, I am formally requesting approval for a drought-resistant, eco-friendly lawn alternative. I plan to install the attached high-realism artificial turf. It maintains a verdant appearance year-round and, most importantly, requires 0 water, putting it in full compliance with citywide water restrictions. I hit send, feeling smug. Let her argue with eco-friendliness. My smugness lasted exactly 6 minutes. Ding. Subject: Lawn Compliance. Bylaw 4.1.2. Richard denied. Per Bylaw 8.c. No artificial grass, synthetic turf, or plastic-based flora shall be installed, displayed, or maintained on any forward-facing property area. Your compliance deadline of 14 days stands. We recommend A1 sod and landscaping. Regards, Karen. I stared at the email. Then I stared at the bylaw she'd quoted. No artificial grass, synthetic turf, or plastic-based flora. I looked out the window at my 100% natural, 100% dead, 100% biomass of a lawn. No artificial grass, I said to my empty kitchen. A slow, terrible, beautiful idea began to form. She banned the grass. She didn't ban, oh no, that's a terrible idea. I grinned. Is it, though? My fingers were already flying across the keyboard. The phone was pinned between my ear and shoulder. Dave picked up again. Me again, I said, the grin audible in my voice. What now? Dave sighed. Did you order a truckload of sand and declare it a Zen garden? Better. I've found the loophole. I'm reading the bylaws right now, Dave. They are a masterpiece of bureaucratic incompetence. Go on? She banned artificial grass. She said nothing, and I quote, nothing about artificially colored grass. There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. Rick, you're not. Please tell me you're not. I'm looking it up right now. It's a thing. Turf colorant. Lawn paint. They use it for golf courses. It's totally real. They spray it on for tournaments to make the grass look good on TV. Rick, Dave said, his voice laced with the weary tone of a man who had been my friend for 20 years. Golf courses use a subtle, natural hunter green. They use it to hide a few brown spots. You have a brown field, and knowing you, you're not going to buy subtle green. You're going to buy something that looks like a muppet, aren't you? I am offended by that accusation, I said, clicking on a promising link. I am a professional adult. I am currently looking at a very tasteful shade called perennial green. Okay, that's not so bad. Perennial green. I can live with that. The neighbors can live with that. I agreed, scrolling down the product page. There's also Summer's Envy, Evergreen. Ooh. What ooh? Dave asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. They have a high vibrancy line. No. I'm just looking. Rick, no. The colors are, wow. Electric lime, shamrock shock, and... I leaned in close to the monitor. My heart sang. And hyperviridian. Hyperviridian, Dave repeated slowly. That sounds less like a color and more like a disease you get from a 1980s computer. It's bright. You're ordering the hyperviridian, aren't you? I'm ordering 5 gallons of the hyperviridian, I confirmed, clicking Add to Cart and Expedited Shipping. It's non-toxic and eco-friendly. It says so right here. This is going to end with you in small claims court. It's going to end with me in compliance, I corrected him. My grass will be 100% natural. It will just be 1000% green. The paint arrived 2 days later in a heavy-duty box. I cracked the lid on one of the buckets. Dave was wrong. It didn't look like a Muppet. It looked like a Muppet that had been fed a diet of pure plutonium. It was the green of a get-well-soon balloon, the green of a highlighter pen that's seen God. It was perfect. Now, I had a problem. I'm a data analyst. My idea of manual labor is carrying the recycling to the curb. I couldn't exactly apply this stuff with a Windex bottle. I needed a professional, or at least someone with a sprayer. I called 3 different reputable landscaping companies in the area. The first one hung up on me. Dialogue. Landscaper 1. Hi, I've got about 1 to 500 square feet of lawn that I need painted. Sir? Painted. I have the paint. It's hyperviridian. I just need you to spray it on. Click, bzzz. The second one thought I was a competitor trying to prank them. Dialogue. Landscaper 2. You want us to paint your lawn? Like, with paint? It's technically turf colorant. Is this Steve, from Green Pro? This is hilarious, Steve. Tell your boss we're still taking the Henderson account from him. Goodbye. Click, bzzz. The third one just laughed for 30 seconds, and then told me I had the wrong number. This was going to require a more discreet solution. I turned to the Classifieds app, the one you use when you need a futon moved at 3 a.m., or have a pile of scrap metal you're pretty sure is haunted. I typed in paint and yard. A single ad popped up. Slick mix odd jobs. We ask no questions. We paint anything, anything. Cash only. This was my guy. I called the number. A voice that sounded like it ate gravel for breakfast answered. Mick. Hi, Mick. I have a lawn I need painted. A lawn. Yes, the grass is dead. I want to paint it green. A long, wheezing sigh. You got the paint? 5 gallons, Hyperviridian. You got cash? Yes. I'll be there in an hour, and I'm charging extra for weird. An hour later, a van that looked like it had lost a fight with every object it had ever encountered rattled up to my curb. It was a mosaic of rust, primer gray, and Bondo. Slick Mix was spray-painted on the side, but the K in Slick had mostly flaked off. A man who was 90% denim and 10% suspicious squint emerged. He had a toothpick wedged in the corner of his mouth. He walked over to my lawn, not on it. He kicked the dead grass. A puff of beige dust flew up. So, he said, shifting the toothpick. The lawn. The lawn, I confirmed. He looked at my house, then at the Sessons, perfect houses of my neighbors. You sure? I went to my garage and returned, holding one of the buckets of Hyperviridian. I opened it for him. Mick peered into the bucket. He didn't say anything for a solid 10 seconds. The color was so bright it almost hummed in the daylight. He finally looked up at me, his eyes wide. Right, he said, all business now. Cash first, 2 coats, and I'm wearing a respirator, not for the fumes, for anonymity. Fair enough, I said, peeling the bills from my wallet. He grunted, took the cash, and went to his van. He pulled out a huge, gas-powered paint sprayer rig on wheels, the kind they use for painting barns. It was caked in a dozen different colors, none of them natural. He primed the pump, put the siphon tube directly into the first bucket, and pulled the starter cord. The machine roared to life with a sound like an asthmatic dragon. He aimed the nozzle at the patch of dead grass closest to the sidewalk. He looked at me one last time. I gave him a curt nod. He pulled the trigger. A jet of pure, radioactive cartoon green blasted onto the beige. It wasn't grass green. It wasn't even close. It was the green of a 1990s action figure accessory. It was the green of an energy drink that promises to let you see through time. It was glorious. Across the street, in Karen's house, I saw her beige curtains twitch. The game was on. Slick Mick was a true artist, a bizarre, probably unlicensed artist, but an artist nonetheless. He worked with a methodical, joyless efficiency. He moved in long, even strokes, walking backward across the lawn, the high-pitched whir of the sprayer momentarily drowning out the gas engine's chug, chug, chug. The transformation was immediate and horrifying. With every pass, the sad, beige biomass vanished, replaced by a carpet of the most unnaturally vibrant green I had ever seen. The color was so intense, it seemed to suck the color out of everything around it. The neighbor's perfectly manicured, living grass suddenly looked dull and sickly by comparison. My house looked pale. The sky seemed less blue. The entire world was being recalibrated against the new standard of Hyperviridian. I sat on my porch, sipping a fresh coffee, feeling like a Roman emperor watching a very, very strange battle being won. 10 minutes in, my neighbor Bob from 3 doors down came jogging by. Bob was a nice guy, always waving. He wore expensive running gear and a fitness watch that probably cost more than my car. He jogged past, did a cartoonish double-take, and then stopped, pulling his earbuds out. He slowly walked back, his mouth slightly open. "Rick?" he asked, his voice full of genuine confusion. What's going on, man?" Is that paint?" I gave him a neighborly smile and a little wave. "Morning, Bob. Just touching up the place. You know how it is. Curb appeal." Bob stared at the lawn. He stared at Mick, who was now a featureless figure in a white respirator and paint-splattered jeans. He stared at me. "Curb appeal?" Bob repeated slowly, as if testing the words. "Right. It's very green." "It's hyperviridian," I said cheerfully. "Huh. Well, looks clean. Yeah, clean." He slowly put his earbuds back in, gave me a weak wave, and jogged off, his pace noticeably faster. An hour and 4 buckets later, Mick finished. He cut the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. I walked onto the sidewalk to admire his work. The entire 1,500 square foot lawn was a uniform, blinding, synthetic green. It was perfect. There wasn't a single blade of beige grass visible. It looked like a portal to a Nickelodeon game show had opened up in my front yard. It looked like someone had skinned a giant leprechaun. Mick was already cleaning his equipment, pouring solvent through the sprayer into a waste bucket. He packed up his rig with practiced speed. "All right," he grunted, pulling the respirator off. His face was beaded with sweat, but a tiny ring around his nose and mouth was pale, untouched by the fine green mist that now coated the rest of him. "Job's done. That's 2 coats. Should stick. It looks incredible, Mick. A real work of art." "No, it doesn't," he said, slamming the van's rear door. "It looks like that. Now, you didn't see me. I didn't see this. We don't know each other." "Pleasure doing business with you, Mick," I said, handing him an extra 50. For the anonymity. He snatched the bill and stuffed it in his pocket. "No, it wasn't. Don't call me again." He got in his van, the engine protested, and he peeled out, leaving a small cloud of blue smoke and the faint smell of spray paint behind. I was alone with my creation. I checked my watch. 4:55 p.m. Karen's evening patrol was, without fail, at 5 o'clock p.m. I went back to my porch, sat down in my Adirondack chair, and waited. It didn't take long. At 5:01 p.m. I heard a sound. It wasn't a yell, it wasn't a scream. It was a single, sharp gasp that cut through the humid Texas air, the sound of a person's entire soul being vacuum-sucked out of their body. I looked up. There she was. Karen. She was standing on the sidewalk, frozen mid-power walk. Her clipboard was hanging limply from her left hand. Her right hand was pressed against her visor. Her jaw was, and I am not exaggerating, wide open. She took 1, 2, 3 robotic steps forward, her eyes locked on the lawn. She looked like a character in a bad sci-fi movie encountering an alien artifact. I decided to be neighborly. "Evening, Karen. Beautiful day, isn't it?" Her head snapped toward me. Her eyes were wide behind her sunglasses. She sputtered. It was a magnificent, multi-syllabic sputter. What did you do?" I stood up and walked to the edge of my new, vibrant property. "I fixed the lawn, Karen, just like you asked." I spread my arms wide, presenting it. No more aesthetically offensive biomass. It's verdant now. "See? This," she was shaking. Her hand was visibly trembling. "This is paint!" She shrieked the last word. It was the first time I'd ever heard her use an outdoor voice. "Whoa, easy there," I said, putting my hands up in mock surrender. "It's colorant, non-toxic, eco-friendly, water-based turf colorant. Says so right on the bucket." I casually gestured to the empty 5-gallon hyper-viridian can I had accidentally left by my recycling bin. "This is a violation!" she yelled, finding her voice. It's artificial! You are in breach of Bylaw 8.C. This was the moment. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a neatly folded copy of the HOA bylaws. I had highlighted the relevant sections. Ah, but is it, Karen? I unfolded the paper. Let's consult the good book, shall we? Bylaw 8C. No artificial grass. Karen, I invite you to inspect. I walked onto the lawn and scraped my foot on the surface. It made a loud, crunchy, rasping sound. This, I announced, is 100% genuine, dirt-grown, dead-as-a-doornail grass. It's all natural, just enhanced. Her face went from pale to a fascinating, blotchy red. I am fining you. This is an unapproved modification. Fining me for what? I asked, all innocence. What bylaw? I checked. I read the whole manual. We have bylaws for fence color. Must be natural cedar or oatmeal. We have bylaws for shutter color, forest green or obsidian. We even have a bylaw for front door color. No bright primary colors. But Karen, I leaned in. There is nothing in there about lawn color. Looks like a massive oversight to me. She had no words. She just stared at me, her chest heaving. She whipped out her phone, her hand shaking so badly she could barely unlock it. She took a picture, then another, then a video, panning slowly across the glowing green rectangle of malice. You will be hearing from our lawyer, Richard, she hissed. This is a public nuisance. This is an abomination. She spun around, her sneakers squeaking on the pavement, and stormed off, not even power walking, just storming. I watched her go, then went inside and called Dave. He picked up. So? I just held the phone up and scraped my foot on the lawn again, right by the open door. Oh my God, he whispered. The crunch. What did she do? She called it an abomination, I said, barely able to contain my laughter. Dave lost it. He wasn't just laughing. He was screaming. I could hear him yelling, "Hyperviridian!" in between gasps for air. I'm pretty sure he was crying. The next morning, the lawn was a local celebrity. It started around 7:30 a.m. Cars that usually sped down our street were slowing to a crawl. People were stopping, rolling down their windows and just staring. Some took pictures. By 8:15 a.m., a car full of high school kids had parked, and all four of them piled out to take selfies with it, striking absurd poses. It's the eighth wonder of the world, dude, Dave said, having driven over on his way to work. A coffee for me in his hand. He was standing on the sidewalk, looking at it with a kind of reverent awe. It's even brighter in the morning sun. It glows. It's a testament to the power of positive thinking, I said, accepting the coffee. The neighborhood, as expected, split. Bob the jogger ran by again, gave me a thumbs up, and yelled, "My wife loves it!" The family on my left, the Hendersons, clearly thought it was hilarious. I saw Mr. Henderson trying to explain to his wife what he was looking at, gesturing wildly, before she broke down laughing. The Karen side, however, was not amused. The other two houses on the cul-de-sac had their blinds drawn, as if to shield them from the radioactive glow. By noon, I had a new pink letter in my mailbox. This one had clearly been delivered by hand, and with extreme prejudice. It was practically vibrating with rage. Subject: immediate fine, public nuisance, and unnatural landscaping. Mr. Miller, a fine of $200 has been levied against your account for the creation of a public nuisance, Bylaw 9.f, and failure to maintain landscaping in a natural and harmonious state, Bylaw 420G. The substance on your lawn must be removed within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in further fines. She was just making things up now. Natural and harmonious state? My dead beige lawn wasn't harmonious, and she knew it. I grabbed a piece of paper. I printed out 2 pictures. The first was a stock photo of a B-52 bomber, a decidedly artificial object. The second was a high-resolution photo of my lawn, showing the 100% natural dead grass blades, merely coated in their new green jackets. At the bottom, I wrote in thick black Sharpie, "Which is it, Karen?" Bylaw 8.C, no artificial grass, or 4G, must be natural. You can't have both. I put it in an envelope, walked it to the post office, and sent it via certified mail with return receipt requested. The ball was back in her court. Karen, it turned out, did not want to play ball. She wanted to call in an airstrike. At 4:00 p.m., I was in the middle of a very boring Zoom meeting when I saw the red and blue lights flashing through my window. A police cruiser was pulling up to my curb. I unmuted myself. "Hey, Jim? I'm gonna have to call you back. The HOA just called the cops on my lawn." Jim's face on the screen just said, "What?" I clicked End Meeting and walked outside. Officer Miller was climbing out of his car. He was a big man, and he moved with the slow, deliberate exhaustion of someone who had seen absolutely everything stupid this town had to offer. He looked like he hadn't slept since 2004. Karen was already on her way over, clipboard in hand, a look of grim victory on her face. "Sir." "Ma'am," Officer Miller said, his voice a low rumble. He looked at me. He looked at Karen. And then he looked at the lawn. He didn't move for a long time. He just looked. He took his hat off, wiped his forehead, and put it back. "Karen." "Ma'am," he said, turning to Karen. What am I looking at?" "Officer, thank God you're here," Karen said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "This man, Richard Miller, has created a severe environmental hazard. This paint, this toxic sludge, is going to leak into the water table. It's poisoning our children. It's a public danger." Officer Miller turned his profoundly tired eyes to me. "Hi, officer," I said, putting my hands in my pockets. "It's non-toxic, pet and child-safe, water-based turf colorant. I have the MSDS sheet inside, if you'd like to see it. It's basically vegetable dye and a sticker. I could drink it. Please don't make me drink it." Miller looked at the lawn again. It was just so green. "Ma'am, I can't arrest him for his lawn being that." "It's a nuisance," Karen insisted, her voice getting shrill. It's reflective. The glare. When the sun hits it, it's blinding. It's a traffic hazard." I watched Officer Miller pinch the bridge of his nose. He squeezed his eyes shut for a full 3 seconds. "Sir," he said, without opening them, "is your lawn reflective?" "Only in the sense that it's, a color, officer," I said. "My car is reflective. Her giant sun visor is reflective. Am I allowed to have those?" Officer Miller finally opened his eyes and looked at Karen. "Karen, we've talked about this. This is an HOA matter. This is not a police matter. I cannot fine him, cite him, or arrest him for having a tacky lawn. Do not, and I mean this with all the kindness I have left in my body, do not call 911 about the green grass again." "But the glare," she stammered. "Good day, ma'am. Sir." He got back in his cruiser, not another word, and drove away. I gave Karen a polite, 2-fingered wave. She looked like she was going to spontaneously combust. She jabbed a finger at me. "This is not over, Richard." "Have a great evening, Karen," I called back, walking inside. I felt like a king. I had beaten her. I had beaten the bylaws. I had beaten the police. I was the undefeated champion of malicious compliance. And then it started to rain. It wasn't a drizzle. It was a full-on Texas downpour, the kind of rain that comes straight down in solid sheets. I was watching it from my living room window, feeling smug, when I noticed something odd. A small, bright green river was starting to flow from my lawn. It trickled off the crunchy grass, down the driveway, and formed a small, hyper-viridian whirlpool at the curb before disappearing into the storm drain. "Well, crap," I said aloud. "Slick Mick said 2 coats. He never said waterproof." I looked across the street, and there she was. Karen. She was standing on her own porch, in a full yellow rain slicker and boots, filming the entire thing with her phone. She was panning from the lawn to the green river, to the storm drain, all with a look of triumphant, maniacal joy on her face. "Poison!" she screamed over the rain, loud enough for me to hear through the glass. "Poison in our streets! I have you now, Richard! I have you now!" The next morning, a bright red envelope was taped to my door. Notice of emergency HOA meeting and tribunal. The Viridian violation. This was it. She was calling in the entire army. The West Wind Estates Community Center was a beige, windowless room in the back of the pool house that smelled faintly of chlorine and old coffee. When I walked in, it was packed. Every chair was full. People were standing against the back wall. This wasn't a meeting. It was a public execution. And I was the guest of honor. "This is amazing," Dave whispered, taking the seat next to me. I'd brought him for moral support. He was wearing a grin that he wasn't even trying to hide. "It's like the Scopes monkey trial, but for stupidity. Are you nervous?" "No," I said, adjusting my tie. I had decided to wear a suit, a nice conservative charcoal suit. I wanted to look like the reasonable one. "I'm prepared." "Just nod when I make a point," I told him. "And please, whatever you do, do not yell hyper-viridian." "My lips are sealed," he said, then coughed, and the cough sounded suspiciously like hyper-viridian. At the front of the room, Karen was setting up a projector. She was flanked by the 2 Todds, who made up the rest of the board. They both looked like they'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. Karen, by contrast, was vibrating. This was her moment. This was her Super Bowl. "Order! Order!" she said, banging a small gavel. "This emergency meeting of the West Wind Estates Homeowners Association is now in session. We are here to discuss a single, grave matter. The Viridian violation at 412 Chestnut Drive." All eyes turned to me. I gave a polite, professional smile. "Karen, before we begin," I said, raising a hand, "I just want to clarify. Is the Viridian violation the official legal term you'll be using for this?" "It is a nuisance," she snapped, "and we are here to vote on its immediate forced removal at the homeowner's expense. I have a presentation." "Oh, good." A PowerPoint. The first slide was a high-resolution, zoomed-in picture of my lawn. Slide 1. The violation. "As you can all see," Karen began, "Mr. Miller, in a flagrant, deliberate mockery of our community standards, has coated his dead lawn in a fluorescent industrial dye." "Colorant," I corrected. "Non-toxic." "Do not interrupt," she shrieked, and the Todds both flinched. He was given 14 days to resod. Instead, he did this. She clicked to the next slide. Slide 2. The Community Impact. This was a collage. It showed the high school kids taking selfies. It showed Bob the jogger giving his thumbs up. He has turned our quiet, prestigious neighborhood into a tourist trap, a laughingstock. Property values are in jeopardy. She clicked again. Slide 3. The Environmental Attack. This was her smoking gun. It was a video, the one she took in the rain. It showed the bright green river flowing into the storm drain. The video was set to dramatic, ominous music. "Poison!" she declared, her voice trembling with righteous fury. "Absolute poison flowing directly into our public waterways. This is not just an eyesore, people. It is an environmental attack on our very neighborhood. He painted it." The room gasped, as if this was brand new information. A woman in the front row, Mrs. Gable, muttered, "Oh my word, the ducks." Karen moved in for the kill. "I am moving for 2 actions tonight," she announced. First, an emergency fine of $5,000 to be paid by Mr. Miller to cover the cost of a full environmental cleanup of the storm drain and the complete, immediate removal of his hazardous lawn. Second, I move to pass Emergency Bylaw 11.f. All lawn colors must be of a natural, soil-grown hue, as determined by the Architectural Review Committee. She finished, arms crossed, and stared at me. "Mr. Miller, do you have anything to say in your defense before the board votes?" This was it. I stood up, buttoned my suit jacket, and walked to the front of the room. I had my own presentation. It was a single, large poster board. "Hi, everyone," I said, my voice calm and friendly. "I'm Rick Miller from 412 Chestnut. Thank you, Karen, for that dramatic presentation. I get it. The lawn is bright. I'll concede that. It's really, really bright. But let's talk facts, not just feelings." I looked around the room, making eye contact. Fact 1. I was fined for a dead lawn. A brown lawn. I was told to make it verdant. My lawn, I said, is now, by any definition, verdant. Fact 2. I followed the rules. I first proposed a sensible, eco-friendly artificial turf. Karen denied it, citing Bylaw 820. No artificial grass. So I used my 100% natural grass, which I am in full compliance with. Fact 3. The environmental attack. This was the big one. I turned my poster board around. On it, I had blown up the label from the Hyper-Viridian bucket. I had a big red circle drawn around the ingredients list. "This is the poison Karen is so worried about," I read from the board. 100% non-toxic, water-based, safe for pets, children, and all living things. Contains water, natural pigments, vegetable dyes, binder, a non-toxic, food-safe adhesive. I looked at the crowd. The poison that ran into the storm drain was vegetable dye. It's about as toxic as a green smoothie. I'd be more worried about the pesticides and fertilizer runoff from every other lawn in this neighborhood. A murmur went through the room. Mrs. Gable, the ducks lady, looked confused. "So, it's like salad dressing?" "Essentially, yes," I said. "Just very green." I turned to Karen. "And finally, you want to ban unnatural hues. I have a question. What is a natural hue? My lawn was brown for 3 months. That's natural. Is brown banned now? Bob's lawn over there," I pointed, and Bob waved sheepishly, "is half yellow from his dog. Is that a violation?" Bob chimed in from the back. "Hey, I'm working on it." The room chuckled. The tension was broken. "This isn't about the lawn," I said, my voice firm. "This isn't about property values or harmony or ducks. This is about Karen trying to fine me for finding a solution she didn't like. I followed the rules exactly as they were written. If the rules are bad or have massive lawn-colored loopholes in them, that's on the board. Not on me. I'm in compliance. Thank you." I sat down. Dave gave me a subtle fist bump under the table. The room was quiet. Karen was staring at my poster board, her face a mask of pure fury. She hated that poster board. It's still tacky," she finally sputtered. "Tackiness is subjective, Karen," I said from my seat. "The bylaws, however, are objective." She banged her gavel. "Vote! We're having a vote. All in favor of the $5,000 fine?" Karen's hand shot up. The two Todds looked at each other. They looked at the angry faces in the crowd. They looked at my poster board. Todd 1 slowly shook his head. Todd 2 put his hands in his lap. "Motion fails," I said, smiling. The neighbors clapped. A few people actually cheered. Karen was purple. "Fine. Vote on the bylaw. Emergency bylaw, 11.F. All in favor of banning unnatural lawn colors." Karen's hand shot up. Todd 1's hand shot up. Todd 2's hand shot up. "Motion passes," Karen snarled, a small, vicious smile returning to her face. "The new bylaw is in effect immediately. You have 48 hours to remove the paint, Richard. You lose." "I lose?" I asked, standing up again. "I'm not sure I do, Karen." She looked confused. "The bylaw passed. Your green lawn is now illegal. Remove it." I shrugged. "Remove it? Karen, it's water-based. As you so helpfully demonstrated with your rain video, it's not permanent. The rain already took care of most of it." It was true. The hyperviridian had, after the downpour, faded significantly. It was no longer a glowing beacon. It was more of a melancholy mint, a sickly, pale, patchy green that was, in its own way, even uglier than the original. "I don't need to remove it," I continued. "I just have to not reapply it. It'll be back to its natural, HOA-approved beige in another week. Congratulations on banning a problem that already solved itself." I picked up my poster board. "If that's all, I have some spreadsheets to get back to." I walked out of the community center. Dave was right behind me, howling with laughter. "Melancholy mint. Oh, that's perfect. Her face. She won, but she looked like she just bit into a lemon." "I lost the battle on the bylaw," I said, "but I'd already won the war. She didn't get her money. She didn't get the satisfaction." The next few weeks were quiet. The lawn became a neighborhood legend. It faded slowly, from melancholy mint to a patchy, sickly yellow-green, and finally back to its original, crunchy beige self. Karen, defeated, didn't even send me a new notice for the faded lawn. I think she was just tired. She still glared at me when she did her power walks, but there was no fire in it. I had broken her. One perfect, cool fall evening, Dave came over for a beer. We were sitting on my porch, looking out at the beige. It was peaceful. "So," Dave said, taking a sip. "It's over. Back to beige. You gonna sod it for real this time?" "Nah," I said. "I'm letting it rest. Winter's coming. It'll be dormant soon anyway. No one has a green lawn in January." "You know she's just waiting for you to mess up," he warned. "The second it gets warm, she'll be at your door with that pink envelope." "Oh, I know." I took a long drink of my beer, a small smile playing on my lips. I was just reading the bylaws again. Just for fun. Dave sighed. "Oh, God." No, it's interesting stuff. They're very specific. See, she passed 11.F, right? All lawn colors must be of a natural, soil-grown hue. Yeah, so? And they banned artificial grass, I continued. And they have rules for fences, and doors, and shutters. I let the sentence hang in the air. Rick, no, Dave said, his eyes widening. I'm just saying, they banned unnatural colors. They said nothing about lawn patterns. Rick, you wouldn't. I mean, a nice, subtle plaid might look good for the fall, don't you think? Using only natural soil-grown hues, of course. A nice oatmeal beige and a forest green, completely in compliance. Dave just stared at me, then slowly shook his head, a grin spreading across his face. You're a monster. I just smiled and looked out at my blank, beige canvas. From my living room, my computer monitor was visible through the window. I had a web page open. It was a site called Pro Turf Stencils. I had one in my cart. It wasn't plaid. Plaid was too much work. It was a giant 10-foot by 10-foot stencil of a fleur-de-lis. I'd just have to buy 2 colors of natural turf paint, a hardy hunter green and a late-season brown. She'd have to appreciate the artistry.